Hi, welcome to the Urban Outdoorsman SoCal video. My name is Danny Milton, and today we're going to be talking about the Ibis Ripmo version 2. When Ibis announced that they're going to be doing a newer version of the Ripmo version 2, which is the bike we're discussing here, I was really excited to see if they were going to be able to improve such a great bike. So I was lucky enough to ride this bike out in Sedona at the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival. This was on my very short list. I wanted to ride this bike, the Canyon Strive, and also the Yeti SB150. And I hadn't planned on riding this bike the first day, but after talking to a bunch of people in line, I knew that this was going to be a very sought after bike, so decided to just go for it first day and take it out and see how it felt. So most of the downhill footage that I got on this bike, I already put into a video, and you can click that link right there. That's going to show the trail that I went down on this bike twice. That's Grand Central. It's a really great trail. It's got a lot of everything. Basically, there's some drop-offs, there's some rock gardens, there's some tight switchbacks, some fast flowy sections, and it's not a difficult climb, but there are some challenges to that climb. So it's basically a really great trail to take a bike out and demo it and try to get a feel of how it's going to ride. I am going to be switching back and forth to this video shot here and video I got on trail while I was riding the bike, so you can see, like the initial feel, how I felt on the bike. We're going to show a little bit of the video of me climbing and also some of the video of me while I'm going down the trail, just so you can get that kind of raw, unfiltered, commentary of me going down the trail and feeling how this bike is going to ride. So just for reference sake, I am 6'2", about 240 pounds, and most of the time when I ride, a demo bike, I'm on an extra large frame. So any numbers that I throw out there as far as geometry are all going to be in according to the extra large frame. Some of the smaller frames do have some small tweaks to some of those numbers, obviously, like reach and wheelbase, stuff like that. So if you want to catch those numbers, go check out Ibis's website. They have a very good website. It'll show you all of those numbers. So last thing we're going to do before we get into the actual review of the video is I'm just going to ask you guys, please do all that fun stuff for me. Hit that like button, share these videos with your friends, comment, leave me tons of comments if you have any questions about the bike. Obviously, most people are going to ask me how this bike compares to all of the other bikes that I've ridden, the SB150, the Strive, all that kind of stuff. Do all that stuff down below in the comments. Please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it as well. I'm trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers total. That way, a bunch of different things I can do on YouTube as far as sending out text messages and kind of stuff like that as well. So definitely subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. And the other way that you can support the channel is I did open a Patreon. I'll have that link down below if you want to support the channel that way. The front fork is the Fox Float 36 Grip 2 Factory Series fork. The rear shock is a Fox Float X2. This bike is the XT build, so it came with the XT 4-piston brakes. It also had the XT 1x12 with the 10 to 51 tooth cassette in the rear. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the initial feel of the bike, and I'm going to show you a little bit of video on trail of how I felt. So far, it's very plush. The suspension just kind of bouncing in along this trail. It's very plush feeling, kind of like the HD5. The handlebar is typical. I'm pretty sure it's 800 millimeters. Feels really good. It's kind of swept back actually a little bit more than I'm used to, but it's fine. The reach feels really good. Very comfortable riding position. Feels pretty upright so far. Nice and easy to pedal. Got the Fox X2 in the rear. Like I said, everything's brand new. Feels really good right now pedaling. So the next thing we're going to talk about is climbing, and throughout this part I'm going to show you a little bit of video from on trail of how I felt about it. I already know this bike is going to climb well. The DW Link suspension, other than like the Yeti suspension, is in my opinion the best for climbing, the most efficient. So one of the reasons why this bike pedals so well is because of the high percentages of anti-squat that it has. When you're sitting down on the seat, or when you get up and you're pedaling through a fast section, the bike doesn't sag. You don't feel any of that pedal bob, which makes it very efficient. Stuck to the ground and just no movement front to rear.
Not that's perceptible. It is moving. I can see the shock, the rear shock moving. Just the smallest bit of amount, but it's staying super high in the travel.
So one thing that I worry about a little bit is when you have those bigger tires, 29-inch tires, kind of worry about if you're leaning too far back in the bike, you know, because of the geometry or just the way the bike feels. Sometimes when you're going uphill and you have to get through those tight switchbacks or turns, sometimes you have to lean into the bike a little bit to keep that front tire down. And I didn't have to do that at all on this bike. One of the other things I'll mention is I love the XT drivetrain that was on this bike. The 1x12 with the 10 to 51 cassette in the back has a ton of gear ranges, especially the 3 top gears. They're a little bit closer than the SRAM cassette is. The one thing I would change on this bike is that it comes with a 32 tooth chain ring on the front. For me, just the way I like to pedal, I pedal a little bit faster. I would probably switch it out to a 30 tooth in the front. With that 30 tooth chain ring, for me, I would have just that little bit more torque to get up some of those steeper sections. So the one negative thing that I felt on this bike while I was climbing is maybe because of the difference in the geometry, the way they slacked it out just a little bit more, I did have several pedal strikes or crank strikes while I was climbing on this bike, especially near the end of the trail when I was going back and forth through the river. You're going over a bunch of rocks and the bike is bouncing a little bit.
I don't remember pedal striking so much on the version 1, but I've had several. Like right there, I just had a pedal strike just rolling over a small rock. See, even right there, just that little like hip of a hill, little hip of dirt I went over. I just slightly touched the crank to the ground.
And had several pedal strikes, nothing too jarring or, that would throw your balance off, but it was there and it's something I wanted to mention. So next we're going to talk about downhill, and obviously this is most people's favorite part. It's definitely my favorite part of riding any mountain bike. It's the reason why I get out there. So the way I kind of describe the way Ibis bikes feel is, and you hear a lot of other reviewers talk about it, they kind of refer to it as a hover bike. Meaning that when you're going over those really rocky sections, like some rock gardens and stuff like that, it feels like you're floating over it.
Whew. Yeah, that felt really good right there.
Depending on, the way that you ride or how you want a bike to react to you, that could be a positive or a negative. To me, I really like the way the Ibis bikes feel because of that lighter tuned front, shocks in general for the bike. It has a very fast rebound, and what it does is yes, it does kind of float you over those sections, but at the same time, it's not really a floating sensation to me. It's more of, it's dampening it, and you can still feel what the bike is doing and how the bike is reacting to the terrain. But it just lessens those, those hard hits, and gives you more confidence, and B, just gets you through that stuff a lot easier and a lot faster. So with that, that lighter tuned suspension, the way the DW Link system feels when you're doing those rough rock gardening sections, it just gives you more confidence. And for me, I could just see myself pushing harder and harder down these trails. And I'll show a little bit of video right now.
Bike is super smooth. Got plenty of front tire grip without having to lean way over the front. That section can get a little squirrely.
It just soaks up all of those, those fast kind of quick hits. It soaks up the bigger hits when you're going off of drops. And it just gives you more confidence to push harder on this bike, and that's what I want a bike to do. So the last we're going to talk about is how the front end of this bike felt.
What I'm most worried about on this bike is the steering. If it's going to understeer like a Santa Cruz 29er, or if it's going to steer like the Giant Pro 29 and the Yeti SB150 and the YT Jeffsy. Those are all 29ers. Those three have really good front steering characteristic and traction. Whereas for me, the Mega Tower and the High Tower just understeer way too much, and it makes it difficult in kind of tight, fast sections.
On this bike, it was better, you know, it was just amazing. It felt really good, very confident. You know, there are a couple of sections on this trail where you have to really slow down and slam on the brakes and make a tight turn.
Whew. Like that one. Can't.
A couple of sections where you're dropping through some rock gardens and you have to be very precise.
Way over the front. That section.
You know, there's some fast flowy sections where you're swinging back and forth, and it did amazing. I didn't feel the front end lose traction at all. I didn't feel it understeer at all, and it was just a great overall experience. So overall, it's pretty obvious how I feel about this bike. I really like this bike. It was, for me, they took the original Ripmo and made it that much better. There were a couple of problems that I thought with the original Ripmo, even though it was still a great bike. They took those kind of things, you know, the progressivity of the rear end and the shock, and that kind of front end, a little bit of understeer in the original version, are completely gone in this version, and it's great. This is a one quiver bike. This bike can do everything, just like the HD5. The jump in how much better they went from the HD4 to the HD5. That HD5 is probably my favorite 27.5 bike right now, and this this version 2 of the Ripmo is really good. It is definitely on par with the SB150, which are these two bikes are probably my two favorite right now as far as 29ers go. It was really great. The great thing about Ibis is they tend to be a little bit more affordable than some other bikes. You know, this bike, the carbon version, starts off at $4,400. That's with the NX. That's the NX build for it. You can also, I'm just looking at my notes here. Another great thing about Ibis and this frame and this dimension is that you can get it in the aluminum version, which is the AF. It's all the same geometry, just an aluminum frame, and it's spec'd out a little bit differently. And that bike is only $3,000. It starts at $3,000. So really great. I'm really loving Ibis right now that they have an aluminum and a carbon version of this bike, and it's a really great bike. The two kind of things that I would change on this bike, they're not really negatives, is just, you know, for the way that I like to set up a bike is, like I said earlier, I would switch that chain ring to just a smaller one. That way I would have all the, you know, gear ratio and conversion, all that stuff that I would need. And for me, the only other thing that I would change on this bike is the dropper post. This was the bike yoke dropper post. Maybe it could be adjusted, I'm not really sure, but while I was on the trail, every time I would want that seat to rise, and there's a couple of sections where you're going up and down, and you know, you're dropping the post, raising it back up to pedal. It was just a little bit slow for me. So I don't know if that's something that they could change, or I don't know, like on my race face, you can add more pressure so that the seat pops up faster. I don't know if that's a bike yoke thing or not, but those are the only two kind of things that I would change in this bike. It was a lot of fun to ride. Like I said, it's right there, if not better, maybe, you know, back and forth with the Yeti SB150. It's a little bit of a different ride experience between the two, but both are very great bikes. This one is definitely on the top of the list right now. It's just amazing. This bike can do everything. Like, you can take this bike anywhere, really. I mean, you could take this bike to a bike park. You could take this down almost probably every trail that you can throw at it. You can take this on blue trails. It's going to climb grade uphill. And yeah, it's just an amazing bike. So after we're done with this video, I have a couple more to do. I have to do the Canyon Strive and also the Yeti SB165. One other bike I want to ride is the newer, the 2020 YT Capra. That's another 29er I want to ride as well. After we get through all of those bikes, I'm going to do kind of a roundup video We're going to talk about, you know, price, pedaling efficiency, downhill, how everything feels, what bike I think is overall going to be the best. We're gonna be comparing. I'm gonna be comparing the Ripmo version 2, the Yeti SB150, the Canyon Strive, the Giant Pro 29, and also that YT Capra. So that video is coming down the line. I'm gonna try and get it out as soon as I can, so we can talk about all of that kind of stuff. All right, so thanks a lot for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Do all that fun stuff for me. Smash that like button, share, comment, subscribe. Definitely subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Get out there and ride. Just do so responsibly. I know there's a lot of crazy stuff going on with this COVID-19. Get out there and ride. You know, go to the trail by yourself. Don't carpool with your buddies. Keep your distance while you're out there on the trail. You can still go out on the trails. I know a lot of the parking lots are getting shut down, like around the trailheads and stuff like that. But, you know, park on the street, be safe, take your own water with you, try to stay away from drinking fountains. That's another thing that you could be doing while you're out on the trail. You know, don't leave any trash, just be respectful and keep distance away from, you know, keep everybody's distance and their bubble intact. And hopefully we can get through all of this craziness and, you know, keep riding our bikes out there on the trails. So the last thing we're going to do is click on one of these videos in the corner. One's going to take you to a ride, another one to a favorite bike. And you can always click that logo down there in the bottom corner, the Urban Outdoorsman SoCal logo, to subscribe. Thanks a lot.